Hello and welcome to the Warehouse Podcast. My name is Tyler, and today I will be recapping the Orioles' dreadful 1-0 loss to the Kansas City Royals to begin the wild card round. And now, just like that, the Baltimore Orioles are on the verge of elimination from the playoffs. Yet again, it doesn't feel great. The game was frustrating as can be. Really just a couple moments where they really had a shot of scoring a run or really doing any damage, and they just couldn't do it. We'll get into that. And then talk about the one inning where the Royals could score a run, and they did. And maybe how the Orioles could have approached that differently. After that, we will get into a little quick preview of game 2 of the series where the Orioles have to win. No ifs, ands, or buts. They got to throw everything against the wall and hope something sticks. Now, before we get into that, quick shout out to our sponsor for the episode. It's Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every match, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. If you think you know your stuff, you can get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. And when the game's over, you can head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or you can unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. So head to the website today. That's betonline.ag and get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. So, back to the game. Let's talk about the couple situations where the Orioles could have scored runs. So, first, I think, is the third inning. So, the third inning starts with a Cedric Mullins double to right field. Mullins was basically the only Orioles hitter that had a good day at the plate. 2 for 3, looked pretty good, looked pretty confident up there. Leads off the third inning with a double, and he's the 8 hitter. So that goes to James McCann, the 9 hitter. McCann had a good September. I think the Orioles are trying to keep Rutschman out from behind the plate as much as possible right now. He's, I think, quite clearly dealing with some kind of injury. Burnes also seems to like working with McCann, so I don't really have an issue with James McCann playing in the game. Like I said, he's been doing well. Left-handed pitcher on the mound for Kansas City, although Reagan's has reverse splits, so you can argue that. But in general, whatever. I'm not going to freak out about James McCann starting a wild card or a playoff game. Um, you know, I get it. But he's your 9 hitter. You've just let off with a double. You know it's going to be a tight game. Reagan's versus Burnes. It turns out it is a tight game. Of course, that's hindsight, but I think you know with the starting pitching matchup, it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a low scoring game. Maybe you're thinking you win 3-2, something like that. You've got a double from your 8 hitter. Your 9 hitter comes up. I think a few people were thinking, let's bunt him over. Mullins, you get him to third with the top of the lineup coming up. You're basically guaranteed to score. You're not, but Gunnar can do some things. I think you trust Gunnar to hit a long fly ball or something. And your 9 hitter's your 9 hitter. Anything your 9 hitter gives you offensively is a bonus. Let's just get the runner over, basically guarantee ourselves a run. Now you're not guaranteeing it, but let's do that. Instead, McCann strikes out. Um, Henderson grounds out. Jordan Westburg flies out. Now Henderson grounding out. If you've got a runner on third, potentially the infield's in. Maybe hits the ball hard. They're positioned a certain way. The run doesn't score. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. But it also changes the whole at bat. They're pitching him differently. It changes how everything works. And instead, the Orioles, Brandon Hyde allows James McCann to swing away. He strikes out. That's unfortunate. I probably would have had him bunt, but again, that's me saying it 2020, although hindsight 2020, although I did kind of think in the moment McCann should bunt. They didn't do that. So that was the first time they really had a chance at scoring runs. Didn't happen. Then in the fifth inning, they get kind of a gift with one out. Ramon Urias hits a weird fly ball to left center field. The left fielder, Melendez, comes in on it, seems to like turn the wrong way. A ball he really should have caught. I didn't look at the numbers on it, but I can't imagine that the likelihood of to catch was any less than like 90%. Like it should have been an out. Instead, he trips over himself. The ball gets past him. Ramon Urias gets to second base on a double, a gift of a double. Cedric Mullins follows him with a single up the middle. I was thinking in the moment, oh, this is a run. They don't send him. I get it. You've only got one out. Yes, McCann's coming up, but then you've got Gunnar. You're kind of guaranteed to get Gunnar back to the plate with a runner on base. I kind of understand that. Although, again, with McCann at the plate, maybe you do a squeeze play. You do something to get a run in. I don't know. It's just, your 9 hitters up. I don't know that you're really expecting him to do a whole lot. Again, this is me looking at it with 2020, but I think even in the moment you're saying 9 hitter with runner on base in at the time was a nothing game. let's try to do something a little creative here. Instead, they just kind of let him swing away, and he again strikes out. And then Gunnar strikes out as well. So, nothing good there. Disappointment all around. But again, not really playing for a run. You're sort of playing for a big inning. You're playing for, oh, well, if McCann does hit a single or does hit a fly ball, that gets a run in with two outs. Now Gunner's up. He can hit a home run, 3-0. We're cruising. I don't know that you can really think like that in the playoffs. I think you have to think a run at a time, especially with your ace on the mound, and you just assume he's going to do his job and hold them to no runs, 1 run, 2 run. Let's play for 3 or 4 runs versus overall versus a 5 run inning. That just wasn't what Hyde was doing there. But then I think like the inning that really stuck out to me as him totally not being in that headspace was the ninth inning where you know what the job is. You uh you are down 1-0. You are facing their closer, the closer who has come in the eighth inning. He's had to span 2 innings. I think is a disadvantage for the pitcher. As good as their closer is, he's not Cole Reagans. He's right-handed. Your bench is full of left-handed hitters. I think you're feeling decent about your chances to get something done here. Ryan O'Hearn walks to lead off. A good at bat, really good at bat from Ryan O'Hearn. Comes off the bench to pinch it for Ryan Mountcastle. Does a really nice job, works the walk. Now Ryan O'Hearn, for all of his talents, I don't think I would classify him as a top tier base runner, as a speedster. Jackson Holliday is on the bench. Now Jackson Holliday is a rookie. He's a very fast rookie. You put a fast guy on the base against a relief pitcher, I think you feel pretty good about your chances to get to second base, to throw the pitcher off his game. Instead, Ryan O'Hearn just stands just off first base. They do pick off, I think, one time over there. Not really sure why, because O'Hearn wasn't going anywhere. But if Holliday's over there, yes, he's a rookie, lack of experience, all that jazz. But if you're not putting Jackson Holliday in as a pinch runner in the ninth inning to potentially be the tying run, I guess I don't know why Jackson Holliday is on the roster because, again, as talented as he is, and as good as he's probably going to be one day, Holliday struggled hitting down the stretch. He's not going to start these games. At least I wouldn't think he's not going. I don't think he's going to start these games. I'm recording this now before the lineup drops for game two. He's in there maybe defensively if there's a substitution situation where Urias comes out, Westbrook shifts to third. You know, he can play. Jackson Holliday can play second base. He can play shortstop if Gunnar gets hurt or something. Like there's reasons, but in terms of like the ninth inning where you'd already lost the DH, like you're doing things like that. You're making substitutions where the DH is gone. Like it's everything you can throw at it. You're doing to win the game. Jackson Holliday pinch running for Ryan O'Hearn feels like a no brainer. They don't do it, and ultimately O'Hearn just stays at first base the whole time. Rutschman strikes out, Cowser flies out, Kjerstad strikes out. It was rough, but again, the closer can kind of pitch just with the mind that nobody's on base. Like they're not going anywhere. They're at first base, whatever. Ground ball's great, pop out's great, fly out's great. Like nobody's advancing anywhere because it's Ryan O'Hearn on first base. He's not going to steal a base. He's not going to advance on anything. Just pitch like normal. It's just again no added pressure, and it makes no sense in the ninth inning. Maybe you do that in the third inning because you got 6 innings to go, and you assume my offense is going to figure something out. I want to play for 2 or 3 runs here versus one. But in the ninth inning, when you just need to get a run to survive, you're throwing everything against the wall, and that's not really what Hyde did here. He did, he pinch hit O'Hearn for Mountcastle, that worked. He pinch hit Kjerstad for Urias, that did not work. But you understand the logic: a righty, substituting a lefty for a righty to face a right-handed pitcher. I get the logic there. It didn't work out, whatever. But just like holding anything back at that point in the game doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Similar to earlier in the game, when you don't know it's going to be a low-scoring game, but you can assume I probably would have had McCann bunt a couple of times. Is it something he's super comfortable with? I don't know. He should be. He's a Major League Baseball player. It didn't happen. So I think those were the big like offensive opportunities. Again, it wasn't a lot. Reagan's was really good. I think I felt that the Orioles were free swinging a little bit. I was looking at pitch data here. And Reagan's only threw 80 pitches, which that was another gift, is that Reagan's came out. I think they said it was cramps. He came out for cramps after just 80 pitches. He was going great. Comes out after 80 pitches, only 6 innings. Which 6 innings is good, but he had 80 pitches. He probably could have gone, you would have thought a seventh inning. I thought he would have gone through the seventh. They didn't. They get an extra inning from the bullpen. You thought maybe that would be something Orioles couldn't capitalize. But what I was going to talk about was the number of swings. He got 49 swings on 80 pitches, which I can't do the quick math there, but it's over 50%. It's probably almost 60%. That's a pretty high rate of swinging at pitches. And then you were whiffing 31% of those times. So it's a lot of swinging and missing. There was no patience on display. The Orioles worked two walks and they were late in the game. I know Ahern walked the ninth inning and Henderson walked in the eighth off of a reliever. Uh, Reagans didn't walk anybody, struck out eight. The Orioles were swinging at everything. It just didn't feel like the approach was super logical. Again, it was just like, look, it was doing what the Orioles do. They hit home runs, they swing for the fences, and I think they told themselves, look, we're not going to change who we are just because Cole Reagans is on the mound, just because it's the postseason. But you got to play to the situation a little bit, and it didn't feel like the Orioles did that in any way, shape, or form. So that was a little bit frustrating. So now let's talk about the other big situation of the game with Burnes on the mound. You know, Burnes really was fantastic. This was like the reinvented Burnes where he doesn't get a ton of like strikeouts, only struck out three guys over 8 innings, but he was super efficient, pitch to contact, like looked really good. Really good Corbin Burnes. I have very, very few complaints about Corbin Burnes. I think the only situation where you start to raise your eyebrow is that sixth inning where the Royals did score the winning run. Started with a one out walk to Michael Garcia. He's still second base. Basically a predictable situation there. You get a fast guy who's one of his few traits is that he can steal bases. Against Corbin Burnes, who gives up a lot of stolen bases, gets on, steals second base. So you know you've got a guy on second with one out. Michael Massey grounds out to move him to third base with Bobby Witt Jr. up. Uh, with a man on third, two outs. Now, the guy on deck is Vinny Pasquantino. First game back from hand surgery that kept him out for the final month of the season. Has been a good hitter historically. Was good in August, I believe, prior to getting hurt. But I think I like my chances against Vinny Pasquantino better than Bobby Witt. Now you go from righty righty with Burnes and Witt to righty lefty with Pasquantino coming up. And this again is where I think Brandon Hyde starts to think about big innings versus paper cuts. He's thinking, okay, well, if I walk Witt's going to steal second base. So now I got guys on second and third with Pasquantino up, a lefty. We know that Camden Yards plays better for lefties than right-handed hitters. So I don't love having the platoon disadvantage in a park that plays better to the left-handed hitter. So now I'm worried about a bloop scoring 2 runs, a home run scoring 3 runs. In either situation, you're now thinking about Corbin Burnes coming out of the game because a 2-run deficit, a 3-run deficit with Cole Reagans on the mound, that scares you a little bit. Now we're going to lose Burnes. We got to use the bullpen. He's just thinking like, I think he's trying to think these steps ahead of like, what do I do if these situations happen versus like, look, the odds that Burnes gets Witt out are still good. Like, you know, think about on base percentage. If you have a 400 on base percentage, you're still getting out 60% of the time. So I'm sure in Hyde's mind is like, look, the odds are in my favor that Burnes is going to get him out. Burnes is better than an average pitcher. You know, Witt is better than an average hitter, but all things considered, I've got at least a 60% chance of getting this guy out right now. And it also prevents me from the big inning, theoretically. So he lets him pitch to Witt, and Witt does pull a ball through the left side of the infield. Doesn't hit it particularly hard, but gets it in the right place. They score a run. Then Witt is ironically tagged out, trying to steal second on the next batter. It looked like maybe his hand snuck in there. The Royals did challenge it, but the play ended up getting upheld. But anyway, I think that's kind of where Hyde's mind was like, let's avoid the big inning and let's try to get a big inning instead of like, let's limit them as much as possible and let's try to get one run at a time on our side. It was two competing thoughts at once, both when they were in the field and at the plate. And to me, a little frustrating because that's not really playoff baseball. Yes, I know the Rangers won last year by hitting the crap out of the ball, but that's not usually what playoffs the playoffs are like. It's winning games 4-3. It's winning games, 2-1. Like that's what the baseball playoffs are because you can throw all your pitchers at the wall. You're not holding anybody back. Like, let's go. And the Royals have been a bad offense. The Orioles have been a bad offense. Like, this wasn't gonna be a high scoring game, and Hyde managed it like it was gonna be one. And that's just a little bit frustrating. So am I throwing all the blame on Hyde? Absolutely not. The blame, if you're doing like a pie chart, the overwhelming chunk is going to the offense. You can't score no runs. And yes, Hyde did not put you in a position to score as many as you could. As I just mentioned, you button guys over. Even in that scenario, you're probably scoring 2 runs if everything goes right. It didn't, and that's unfortunate. So, the offense needs to do better. 5 hits, 2 walks. I think they were what 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. It was just that one single from Urias with Mullins on second, or vice versa, or Urias on second and Mullins singled. They didn't score there. You can't go 1 for 7. They had the opportunities. The offense was better than the Royals offense, who basically got nobody in scoring position except for that one inning. But you just got to be more productive than that, and they just could not do it. I hope today they play a little bit more aggressive. They sort of play for those 1 and 2 run innings versus the 3 and 4 run innings. Now, if they don't hit a home run, maybe they can't do that. Maybe they're not capable of that. That's been an issue for the Orioles recently. Well, most of the season is if they don't hit a home run, they don't score. And that's a concern again. And now, moving to game 2, they got Seth Lugo on the mound against Corbin Burnes, or against Zach Eflin. I wish Corbin Burnes could pitch again. Eflin, should be good. I'm not overly concerned about that. Let's see if the lineups are out. They are out. So Henderson leading off, shortstop. Westberg at second. Santander switch in right field. Cowser in left field. Rutschman at catcher. O'Hearn DHing. Mountcastle first base. Mullins in center. And Urias at third base. So it's a similar lineup. McCann is out, and O'Hearn and Mountcastle are both in the game with a right-handed Seth Lugo on the mound. So I think this lineup is probably a touch better, and it's against Lugo, who has been really good this year, not quite as good as Reagan's, but very good. So you'd hope the Orioles can move things up a bit. And I think if we're talking about like potential here, the Orioles offense has more potential than the Royals offense, but that doesn't mean the Orioles are going to be better than the Royals on this day. And yeah, it was just a frustrating watch yesterday. Optimistic that today can be a little bit better because if it's not, the season's over, and that'd be a really disappointing way for this season to end. This team's been through some trials and tribulations, and I think we were hoping that last week of the season was sort of an impetus to push things over the edge. Uh, Maybe it will be. We just didn't see it last night against Reagan's. Hopefully that's different against Lugo. And I think you figure out who your game 3 starter is uh, whenever. I think you pitch to the moment today, obviously. If it makes sense to bring Dean Kramer in, you bring Dean Kramer in. If it makes sense to bring Cade Povich in, you bring Cade Povich in, and you figure out tomorrow, because without today, there is no tomorrow. So we'll see. I am Yeah, and then on the Royal side, their lineup is almost identical to game 1. The only switch is Hunter Renfroe's coming in to play right field instead of Tommy Pham. Renfroe's got some good numbers career against Eflin. I think he's like 5 for 13 with a home run and 2 doubles, but sample size pretty small. Eflin did face the Royals back on the 4th of July when he was with the Rays. Still, it didn't go great. I think he went 5 innings, gave up like 6 runs. So a little worried there. He won't have an opportunity to do that today. The Orioles, I'm sure, will not allow him to go that far if things are getting out of hand. But um, look, it's all there for the Orioles. Eflin's been good for them. You know, you feel okay about his odds here. He's pitched well for them even after the injury. So fingers crossed. The whole bullpen's available. Yeah, Aiken and Dominguez pitched yesterday, but they had a day of rest in between. So everybody's there. You do what you can to get the win. And I'm saying that the offense can't be worse than it was yesterday. That's not totally true, but it can't be much worse than yesterday. So we'll see about that. Whatever happens, we'll be here for a podcast recap. It'll probably be Jesse or Eli, not sure just yet. One of them will be on to recap the game and hopefully be previewing a game 3 that is yet to come. But fingers crossed we can at least win a game in the playoffs this year. It would suck to go out 2 years in a row, losing 5 games in total. But we'll see what we got in store. That's all I got for this episode. Short and sweet. Thank you guys so much for listening to it. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast listening service. Tell your friends about it. Get involved, because even if the Orioles, lose, we got a whole offseason of stuff to talk about. If they do win, we're going to keep doing these daily recaps, and it's fun to kind of connect on it, get into the nitty gritty, and commiserate with you all in misery. But Also, follow us on social media, The Warehouse Pod on X, and you can email the show, thewarehousepod@gmail.com. Just want to mention again, we're part of the Believe network of podcasts. Head over to believe.com, BLEAV.com, to find a podcast for your preferred sporting interest. And again, thanks to our sponsor, Bet Online, for sponsoring the show. That is all I've got for this episode. Thanks so much, and go O's.